love fades away.
And welcome back to World Sports Show. Charlie Flo here with John DeCriscio. We have on the line on World Sports Show, we have Todd Hoffard, goalkeeper coach for Real Salt Lake. How you doing tonight, Todd?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. First Thanksgiving out in Utah. How was it?
It was good. It was kind of low key, which is a little bit abnormal, but very nice. Just some good family time with my wife and two kids, and cooking some dinner on Thursday, and just relaxing and watching some movies. So it was quite nice. A little bit different, but very nice.
I know that it's the life of a coach. You know that a year ago you're living in Pennsylvania, and a few years ago you're coaching in New York, and a few years ago coaching in Reading. So it's that whole, I guess, family time is very important to you guys when you actually do have some free time.
It is. Every chance you get, you try to really take advantage of it, and we've been fortunate. We've been, out here. We've been able to get away. A couple different occasions during some downtimes or breaks in the season, and we did that again. We left. We went up to Park City for a night the past couple of days. Just got back late last night and kind of experienced that and saw tons of snow and fireworks and just had a nice enjoyable time.
It's good. So I guess it was about July. You ended up joining up with Real Salt Lake. You got the call. Describe that phone call and that moment of, hey, I got a chance to get back in coaching in MLS.
Yeah, well, it was. Mike and I obviously worked together in New York, and we often talked about if the opportunity ever came up again, we would love to work with each other. And I got a voicemail from Mike, which I hadn't spoken to Mike in a little while, and was just kind of like, okay, what's Mike looking for? And long story short, he said, look, I'd like to try to get you out here and see if this will work. Would you be interested? And of course, I said yeah right away. Would welcome the opportunity to work with him again and come to a club like this. And I jumped on a plane right away, and next thing you know, I'm out here, and my second day here, we were playing Manchester United, so in a friendly. So it happened very, very quickly, but that's the way most opportunities do it in this profession. So if you don't jump on it, it's not going to wait for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you get literally, like I said, like you just said, they're getting thrown in the fire. You're playing Manchester United. Obviously, it does help as a goalkeeper coach to have a veteran like Nick Raimondo, that is your number one keeper, but some other keepers under him. What has that been like this summer working with Nick Raimondo?
It's been great. Nicky's, one of the stalwarts in this league. He holds, I think, every goalkeeping record there is in the league. He's kind of been there, done that when, won a championship, been with the national team, been an all-star. So it's been a lot of fun. We have a pretty good relationship. We communicate, all the time about a lot of different aspects and, obviously, matches, training. I learned probably just as much from him as anything. I'm always looking to get better at my craft, and, some of the attributes that he has weren't always things that I specialized in. And it's been a great learning experience for me as well.
Yeah, like you said, he's broken all these records. I mean, that seems like the prime time for a goalkeeper. You look at his age 39. As a field player, your career's over. But like a Nick Raimondo, he stays in shape. You could have him for years to come.
Yeah, and Nick, he's brilliant with keeping on top of his body. And that's something that him and I, with our communication, it's a constant managing. His body and managing his workload. And that's the key, I think, when you get to that 35 plus, it's about managing your body. We know what he can do. It's about, keeping him and maintaining what he can do, but also, keeping the body healthy, because it does go through changes, obviously. And, that's probably my biggest piece in dealing with Nick is just really trying to monitor the day-to-day workload.
Now, we have a keeper like that with your experience of the 20-plus years coaching, and you have Nick Raimondo at 39 who's been playing pro since, 2000. And you have a player like him. How much of a positive influence is he's almost like an extra coach when you're working with your youth keepers?
He is, and I've actually had the conversation with him about coming down and helping with the academy goalkeepers, because, and not just with the USL team or the reserve, but down with the youth academy, because they all look up to him. And I oversee everything here. I obviously my priorities with the first team, but I oversee the goalkeepers in the USL as well as the academy. So it's getting him in front of those academy kids, and inspiring them, and that's something he's extremely willing to do. Nicky's just a very down to earth, good human being, and is looking to help and inspire. Which, for me as a coach, that's all I can ask. I can go out in the field, with the younger goalkeepers, and after a while, it's like anything. They don't always want to listen. They don't always want to hear the same voice saying the same things. When they hear it coming from Nick, it might be the same message, the same wording, everything, but coming from Nick, it has a little bit more meaning, a little bit more power, because he's still involved. He's still playing, and it's on a Saturday, that's who these academy kids they're watching. Yeah. So, and he's very, very good with that. And I can't thank him enough for. Because some players don't always like that role, especially while they're playing, and he embraces it, which is very nice to see.
And we look at Nick Armando's career with the men's national team. He's played 22 games for the national team. He's played 31 games for the U20s. Just been a staple. You have one of the greatest goalkeepers ever, and Tim Howard, that he's kind of been behind, but been involved in World Cup rosters. He kills that stereotype of height. You and I talked about on the phone about this a couple weeks ago, that the under 6 foot goalkeepers like him, Jorge Campos, that have had amazing careers, and after a while, as a keeper coach, you don't even notice his height, and it's not anything that hinders him a bit.
No, and I've always been a big proponent, and it's very frustrating for me when I see a lot of goalkeeper coaches or outfield coaches, head coaches that basically don't even want to look at goalkeepers if they're under 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3". It bewilders me, because if you can play like you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and you're only 5'10", and Nicky's maybe 5'9", 5'10", but he plays big. He's very powerful. He's very explosive. He's very, very quick. If you can play bigger, what size matter, in my opinion? I just have never understood it, because you can be 6'5", but what if you can't get down for the low balls? Yep. What if your feet don't move very well? You're not very agile. You're not very mobile. Your lateral movement's poor. Well, just because you're 6'5" doesn't mean really anything. So it's always been a frustrating piece for me, and I always try to look at what's their feet like, what's their handling. Do they make good decisions? Are they decent with the ball at their feet? All those types of attributes go a lot further, as opposed to me just looking at as somebody 6 foot tall. And unfortunately, in today's game, that's one of the first criteria people look at is height. And I might be in the minority, but I totally disagree with it. I want to look at the entire package. Now, if you're 5'10" and you're playing like you're 5'10", all right, now we have a different story, a different conversation. But if you're 5'10" and you're playing like you're 6'4", why does it really matter how big you are if you can cover the goal and you can do your job and do your job very, very well and very efficiently?
Yeah, we've seen the game develop and just the position of goalkeeper developed. Back when you and I were kids playing goalkeeper, we could just pass it back and pick it up. So the game has changed where the goalkeeper has to have touch now. We've seen, like, for example, Joe Hart kind of got the short end of the stick, in Man City because it was not, good with his feet. So being good with your feet, obviously like Nick Armando, you become part of the, like a sweeper now. And I'm sure you've seen that change in how you coach goalkeepers, that they can't just be this guy back there just kind of hanging on a 6.
Yeah, and that's 100% correct. And when you look at statistics, which I know soccer's not a huge statistic sport like a baseball or so, but when you look at the simple statistics of touches on the ball for a goalkeeper, it's about 80% of the touches they're having are either very, very simple saves with their hands or balls at their feet. Dealing with a back pass, taking a goal kick, distribution, all kinds of different things. And it's not even remotely close. Distribution is the number one thing that the goalkeeper's doing over the course of a 90-minute game. But where do most goalkeeper coaches want to train? They want to have the kids flying across the goal all the time. Well, that's such a small percentage of the saves they're going to make. So it's drastically important for that goalkeeper to be able to deal with the ball at their feet, because that's the majority of the touches that they're going to deal with in the course of a 90-minute game or in a youth game, you know, whether it's 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, whatever. The majority of the touches are going to be with the ball at their feet. So they've got to be very, very efficient with dealing with it. Off the back pass, taking a goal kick, striking a first-time ball, whatever.
Now looking at like a cast of goalkeepers, and you got like guys like Nick Armando, who is just like a solid number one. It's not a goalkeeper by committee where you have 3 or 4 goalkeepers, and maybe that week at training, you know, one of your goalkeepers decides, okay, this is my starter this week. Kind of like the collegiate game, I'm sure you'd seen that, where it could be week to week who your starter is. When you get the highest level, when you have a definite number one, what are some of the, you know, tools and things mentally you do to keep your number 2 and 3, you know, ready to rock and roll?
Well, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, obviously our day-to-day training here is based on Nick, because obviously he's typically going to be playing on the weekend if he's healthy. So a lot of the things that he really likes that makes him sharp, which is quick, short, sharps, he likes a lot of high-tempo type of exercises, which not every goalkeeper likes, but when you look at his strengths with his everything in tight and around his body and very, very quick and athletic and mobile, that's the type of training he likes. We incorporate a lot of those types of exercises through the course of the week, which are based on his attributes of what's going to get him sharp and ready and prepared for the match. Andrew Putna or Alex Horvath, who are our number 2 and number 3 goalkeepers, they're not the exact same model goalkeeper as Nick. So when we're in training, they're getting more his style. So if we're playing on the weekend and Alex is going to be the number 2, I've got to make sure, yes, he's also getting that training that's geared towards Nick, but I also got to give him some things on the side that are maybe more specific to him. Because I'm sure you well know, you know, there's things you like in training that get you mentally sharp, and there's things you don't like in training that don't get you mentally sharp. Well, part of my job is to try to figure out what those things are. Try to what pushes that goalkeeper's buttons to get him mentally ready. If, in my opinion, if I'm not doing that and I'm unable to figure that out, then I'm not doing my job properly. So I've got to know exactly what each goalkeeper wants and needs. It's going to basically put them at peak form. And I have to make sure that they're getting that in the daily training regimen. Obviously, for the number 2 and the number 3, they're not getting that minute by minute of it because we're gearing towards Nick as if he's going to be in the lineup. But I've got to make sure on the side I'm also getting that. You know, it could be a little bit before training or coming out a little bit early. It could be, you know, after training, getting a little extra and doing something. There's a lot of that. Knowing that comes from just communication between me and that goalkeeper. When a goalkeeper signs with us, the first thing I do is sit him down. What do you like? What do you don't like? What makes you confident? To make sure that I'm getting to know that goalkeeper, so I can implement those exercises and those sessions into the day-to-day activities.
Now we want to talk about, you got a camp coming up here, and I believe is it in the Lancaster area, Pennsylvania, later in December?
Yeah, the 27th. It's actually going to be in Reading. So my wife's from Reading, so we're going to do it there. I did it last year as well, so I'm looking forward to that, coming back to the area and, you know, seeing some of the kids that I've worked with, you know, for the past few years in that area. So not far from Lancaster, which is my hometown, so it's only another 35, 40 minutes. So hopefully we'll see some kids from the Lancaster area as well.
Now, why is it really important? I wanted you to, you know, kind of, you know, a little bit of pitch and catch here, because John and I do a lot of keeper camps, and it's just that keeper can be some of the most neglected position when it comes to camps, you know, and ID clinics, for example. I'm doing some ID clinics coming up, and there's not much that they want me to do is shoot on the keepers from the 18. But, you know, a lot of these camps are so good for just developing the keepers. I think they need to be around their keepers, keeper coaches, you know. How did this all get started with your one-on-one, you know, goalkeeping?
Yeah, I mean, it basically started with myself kind of being that goalkeeper that you're basically describing, the one that gets neglected, pushed off to the side, and, you know, just somebody just pounding balls at you and crossing their fingers hoping you're going to develop. Well, that's kind of where I was as a young kid, and I was very fortunate to run into a gentleman by the name of Darryl Groff in my hometown that kind of took a liking to me and basically just tried to drill technique into me and pushed me along. And kind of through that, I got the coaching bug. And I basically vowed to myself, I don't want to see kids grow up in that same kind of environment I did, where I was basically learning by myself, and just somebody smashing balls. I wanted to help that kind of next generation. So if they did want to become a goalkeeper, they knew what the technique was. They knew exercises to train the technique. They knew what the work ethic that was involved. So they didn't have to kind of be thrown to the wolves, so to speak. They almost became their own coach. And that was my goal back, I think it was in 1993. This is my 20th year, which is showing my age a little bit, I guess. But that was my whole goal, was basically to get myself to a point, or get these kids to a point where they could be their own coach, so to speak.
Yeah, so I guess you aged yourself, so I guess that'll be an easy segue into you getting drafted to play in, and I guess the MPSL in 1994, I believe it was. I was reading up on your little bio. So, I mean, that's a whole different game. I mean, when you're jumping into the playing indoor soccer, like playing for the kicks and the crunch, and you have to almost learn the goalkeeper position. It's a new type of position indoor.
It was just a completely different beast. I mean, I never played indoor really at all before that. You play in the indoor tournaments and things, at the high schools on a hardwood gym floor, but that's not exactly what I was thrust into. And I really didn't know what I was getting into when I got drafted. And, it was my hometown, so I was just excited to continue playing. And at that time, the MLS wasn't around. So you basically played indoor. If you wanted to continue playing, you played indoor in the winter, and then you went on loan or signed with somebody in the summertime and played in the outdoor. And that's what I did. So, but yeah, it was literally learning the position all over, because it was just completely different and extremely hard on your body. I wake up every day thinking, why did I ever play indoor soccer? Because my body aches and pains. But it was fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, we loved, covering the war that you were coaching the keepers for there. I mean, you got to work with a legend in Peter Pappas, and I'm sure that was just almost a pleasure watching him just, come out of retirement and play so well that it inspired all us over 40-year-old guys to say, man, maybe I shouldn't hang up the boots yet.
Yeah, well, Peter was, he was a fantastic goalkeeper, in the league. And I was fortunate enough to play against him in college, play with him with the Philadelphia Kicks. And he's been a good friend for many, many years. So obviously when I took that spot, he was the first person I thought of, and basically asked him for a favor. It was like, hey, can you come out of retirement, do me a favor, and can you play for us? And, he said yes, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Now, the indoor game, like you said, I mean, you give up 2 or 3 goals in the outdoor game, you can start playing head games, and you see these final scores in the indoor games, 20-30. I mean, I'm sure you've given up a lot of goals in those games that you almost just have to have a short-term memory and know that you're going to get scored on, because pitching shutouts in the indoor game is almost impossible.
It is, and that was a big adjustment when you go from the outdoor, in the college level, and all of a sudden you're thrust into a pro indoor environment, is that mental side of adjusting of, okay, you conceded a goal, that's fine. Where you concede 1 goal in a 90-minute game, it could be over. So that was a big adjustment for me. We always joke, though, that, I needed, suntan lotion for the back of my head, because that light kept going off and burning the top of my head every time I conceded a goal. But it was just an adjustment in all aspects, not just learning how to concede goals, not get frustrated with it, but just learning how the game is played, because it's completely different.
Yeah.
So when the balls are coming off the boards, the million miles an hour, and everybody is in close to you, it takes a different type of goalkeeper. I'd be brutally honest, it didn't, with my strengths as a goalkeeper, indoor was not my strength, put it that way. You had to be very, very lightning quick and in and around your body. I was more of that bigger goalkeeper that communicated well, dealt well with the cross, came off my line in that regard, but kind of the point-blank shot stopper wasn't exactly my forte.
And that's pretty much the indoor game.
And that's the indoor game, that's right. So, but it was fun. I did enjoy my time, playing it. I wouldn't change it. Some mornings when I wake up, I might change it, but most mornings, most days, I'm pretty happy with my career.
And I think that you look at that you played in the indoor league, you coached in the indoor league. That these leagues were the only thing we had, growing up. I mean, it's when I'm in high school and middle school playing soccer, there was no dream of me playing professionally in America because it really just wasn't really there wasn't MLS yet. So it's I look at it as you guys were kind of the trailblazers. You paved the way for what now is stable soccer, and I'm sure sometimes it pinches yourself when you're on the road with Real Salt Lake. You're actually staying in a hotel with more than one star, and you're not eating like peanuts out of the back of a bus.
Yeah, it's a I mean, even just from when I was at Red Bull to now, I mean, the game has changed. Let alone from when my indoor days, in the NPSL to now. I mean, it's just a completely different world. Tedek is also one of our assistants here, and he played in the with the national team. He played in the indoor league. So him and I are kind of the indoor guys on our staff here at RSL. So we, on many, many occasions, talk about, the life of the indoor player of 3 in 3 days in 3 different cities and, arriving at a hotel at 5 a.m. to play a 1 o'clock in the afternoon game, in Buffalo or something like that. It's not easy. And then you got guys that we have, in the MLS now that they complain because they have to play on a Wednesday and then turn around and play on a Saturday. And we're like, wait a second. We played on Friday in Detroit, Saturday in Harrisburg, and then Sunday afternoon in Buffalo, and you do that a couple times a year, and you're playing on basically concrete with AstroTurf on it. So it is quite comical sometimes, because they kind of the players today take for granted, some of the things that we had to go through, but that's just the way it was. That's the way it was. We didn't know any better. I would have loved to grow up in this generation with the training facilities they have, the stadiums, the environments. I mean, watching today, Atlanta, and Portland, and then being in both those environments. I mean, it's electric. You just can't compare. You go into Atlanta in front of 70,000. It's loud, and you go on to work in that environment. I mean, you can't beat it. These kids are very, very lucky, very fortunate. I wish I was 25 years younger.
So out there, let the fans listening out there, the young keepers out there that want to get into your camps, what is your website, and give us some information on your upcoming, clinics.
Yeah, well, it's one-on-one goalkeeping. So it's just the number one, goalkeeping.com. There's also one-on-one soccer, which you can get both information. I have 2 sites, and that's just spelled ONE soccer.com. They both have the same information. One's just more dedicated to goalkeeping. But yeah, the program is going to be the 27th of December. There's a goalkeeper-only clinic from 9 to 11:30 in Reading, Pennsylvania, and then we're also going to do a outfield player, a shooting clinic from noon to 2:30 that same day. So we're doing 2 clinics that day, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have goalkeepers that are going to stay from the goalkeeper clinic and participate in the shooting clinic. So we're looking forward to it. We did it last year, and we had a great turnout. And obviously, coming back for the first time this year, it's going to be quite enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, that sounds great, Todd. So definitely looking forward to seeing you come back here on the East Coast and do that in Reading, and wish you the best luck in the off season. I know that there's really no off season because you're getting ready to start up in January, February when a lot of the MLS teams reconvene. But it's great speaking with you, and definitely hope we can cross paths again.
I look forward to it. Yeah, if you ever need anything, please let me know. I'd love to get you up to...
Thank you for watching a World Sports Show production. For more info, go to worldsportsshow.com.